Coming up, he has led the state's largest university for 14 years. Now, Indiana University President Michael McRobbie is about to step down. He joins me for a look back at accomplishments and what's next for him and the university. Plus, the Terre Haute Regional Airport says it has a strategic flight plan that could pay off big time for economic development in Vigo County. We'll get details on what's in the works and what it could mean for West Central Indiana. Plus,
I'm Mary Rachel Redmond in Johnson County. If you don't have a green thumb but love fresh cut flowers, this may just be the place you've been looking for. Blossoms and greens galore coming up.
Details on those stories and much more ahead on this edition of Inside Indiana Business. Hello and welcome to Inside Indiana Business. I'm Gary Dick. He is one of the country's longest-serving university presidents. Michael McRobbie has been at the helm at Indiana University for 14 years and in senior leadership positions at IU for about 24 years. He's now ready to step down. During his tenure as president, he has led an academic transformation at IU, including the creation of 10 new schools. There's also been an expansion of research and innovation fueled by record external funding, and the school's international footprint has expanded as well. And I'm pleased to welcome back to the show Michael McRobbie, who's to talk about what's next for him and the university. And Michael, always a pleasure to have you on the show.
Great pleasure as always to be here, Gary.
Yeah, so much we can talk about. I guess maybe we go to what has transpired here in the last year. Obviously, the pandemic has made an unbelievable impact on every walk of life, every business, every academic enterprise. Characterize, if you will, this last year, a year plus, and what it's been like as a university president.
Well, it's probably been the most difficult period of time in the university's 200-year history, dealing with the pandemic and all its consequences for the university. But very early on, we mobilized the full resources of our health sciences school, our School of Medicine, our public health schools, School of Nursing, the other schools and what have you, and used them to craft the strategy that we would use to keep the whole university community, faculty, staff and students safe during that period, to stay open and to keep functioning as a university, and to do all that safely. And we managed that. I think we managed it in an exemplary way. The university was safer than the rest of the state in terms of the prevalence and positivity rates in the university. And we did it all by utilizing our scientific resources and following the science and the medical advice the whole time. And that, I think, was critical to getting us through this crisis.
Yeah, and you most recently, you announced the school's first chief health officer, Aaron Carroll. So looking forward, there'll be someone in a position to really deal with future situations.
Yeah, I think what the pandemic really brought home is that across all our multiple campuses and other units around the state, there are issues in public health that are common to all of them. And we didn't really have a single person responsible for the coordination and the development of proactive responses to those kinds of problems anywhere in the university. So the appointment, Aaron was one of the leaders of our response to the pandemic. He headed our whole testing, our whole massive testing operation that kept the university community safe. And so Aaron is a distinguished professor, a renowned researcher in the medical sciences. So he is going to head up all of our public health responses across the whole of the university.
Yeah, so many things we can talk about, Michael, of your 14 years as president, among them in terms of being, quote unquote, transformational. 10 new schools established essentially in the last 10 years. So the academic endeavor at IU truly has been transformed during your tenure.
Yeah, I think it was the case that we had not really updated the academic structure of the university, and the programs that we offered students, we were falling behind in offering students what they wanted and what we were capable of achieving. So that was what led to this massive academic transformation, the largest ever in the university's history. As you said, 10 new schools across the university, nearly 600 new degree programs and other programs over that period of time. So now I think we are wonderfully positioned to provide exactly the kinds of degrees and other programs that students want in this day and age, that are responding to all of the opportunities that they have, as opposed to being locked in the past, focused on opportunities that no longer exist.
You're right. You led one of the largest capital campaigns of any public universities in the country, $3.9 billion campaign. Technology was also a big focus of yours, and enhancing, upgrading in technology, across the university system.
Well, Miles Brand had the vision when he appointed me back in 1996 to build the university's information technology infrastructure across the whole of the university to be able to compete with the best in the world. He wanted us, as he put it at the time, to be the best in absolute terms in the uses and applications of information technology. And I got the job of doing that, and we were able to, together with hundreds of very able people, to achieve that. And we did that in the knowledge that information technology is now, I think everybody acknowledges, is absolutely fundamental to the academic enterprise, both education and research. There's no area of educational research that isn't affected, from anthropology to zoology, that isn't affected by information technology, and that was the job we had.
Hey, Michael, unfortunately we're out of time, but what's next for you and your wife, Laura? Are you going to stay in Bloomington?
Well, we're going to take a bit of a break for a period, but the trustees have very kindly appointed me as the university chancellor, the position that Herman Wells held, and I look forward very much to being in that position for the future.
Very good. Well, it's been a pleasure covering your exploits at IU, and look forward to seeing you soon.
Great to see you as always, Gary.
All right. Well, my guest this week on the next episode of the Business and Beyond podcast has a big connection to IU. Rick Fuson played football for the Hoosiers for a couple of years. He's the longtime Indiana Pacers executive, more than 35 years with Pacers Sports and Entertainment, currently president and COO of the organization. And he's been a key player in orchestrating basically every major sporting event Indianapolis has hosted. Especially proud of this year's NCAA men's basketball tournament.
I call it as important an event as we've ever had, especially in light of the time frame that we had, 77 days, I think it is. And from the time that Joanne Scott and the folks at the NCAA called and said, hey, we're coming there, we're going to do it. It was an amazing feat.
Much more with Pacers executive Rick Fuson on what will be the 20th episode of the growing Business and Beyond podcast. To check it out, just go to InsideIndianaBusiness.com. Up next, the mission of Corteva Agriscience to help farmers around the globe feed communities. We'll have details on how the company continues to be a global hub for innovation with big implications for Indiana. It's time to go inside innovation, brought to you by Allegion, pioneering safety. Corteva Agriscience is celebrating its second birthday this month as a standalone company. Corteva's Global Business Center is in Indianapolis, and it's a major employer with a workforce of more than 1,500 here and 2,000 around the state. It's an innovator in the ag bioscience sector with a focus on improving the lives of farmers, communities, and consumers around the world. With more on Corteva's mission and what it could mean for Indiana, pleased to welcome back to the show Executive Vice President of Business Platforms, Rajan Gajaria. And Rajan, thank you so much for joining us. Great to see you as always.
Pleasure as always, Katie. Thank you for the invite.
Okay, Corteva, for those who don't know, still a relatively new 2-year-old standalone company, but a spin-out of Dow DuPont with roots obviously back to Dow Agriscience's massive facility on the northwest side of Indianapolis. Give us a thumbnail of this major business center for Corteva in Indianapolis.
Gary, this is, like you said, our hub of innovation. A lot of our crop protection business, which is half our business globally, we are about a $15 billion business globally. all of that innovation really stems right here in Indianapolis. So we bring global talent to Indianapolis, but we also take the products that are made right in our backyard to farmers all around the world. Corteva works with around 10 million farmers around the world, and a lot of the innovation that we do right here in Indiana is what serves them.
Yeah, a lot of talk about feeding the world, and certainly the mission at Corteva and a lot of the innovation, the science going on right here in Indianapolis and more broadly at locations in Indiana. That really gets to the heart of that feeding the world equation.
Absolutely. I think the challenges are real. We have an important but a small role to play, and proud to say that Corteva is doing that. So we are at a point here where there is a strong convergence of technology, whether it is biotech, whether it is crop protection, big data. Technology comes together, and Corteva has an important role to play as it comes to growing this, feeding the growing population that we see around the world.
Yeah, major presence here means major employment. 1,500 or so people working at Corteva here in Indianapolis. Overall, about 2,000 in the state of Indiana. How are you finding the ability to get talent? Because that obviously drives what you do.
Actually, I think as we see across industries, purpose is a real strong attractor for people to come to talent. We really feel good about the fact that we are talking about ensuring progress for generations to come. We are talking about feeding the world. We are talking about partnering with farmers. And we really think that message resonates with people around the world. And I'm happy to say that Corteva can attract a lot of talent from across Indiana, from across the US, and across the globe, right here to Indianapolis. So we have been very fortunate that we attract talent right from PhD scientists to people who want to work in different functions, from commercial to supply chain, all in here. So we've been very fortunate that way.
Yeah, only have about 30 seconds left, but Corteva, headquartered in Delaware, Indianapolis, and Iowa are the two massive business centers for the company. As you look going forward, what's next for Corteva here in Indiana? How does the future look for Corteva Agriscience in Indiana?
The future for agriculture across the globe looks strong, which means that the future for Corteva is strong, and Indiana and Indianapolis being such a big part of Corteva, cautious optimism. I think the future looks very positive. We love to collaborate with not only different places like Purdue and other folks right here in Indiana, but Indiana is a very important business center for us, not only from an employment perspective, but even for our farmer customers. 1 out of every 3 bags of corn sold in the state of Indiana come from Corteva. 1 of every 3 bags of soybeans sold in Indiana come from Corteva. So yeah, it's an important place for us, for employment, for talent, but also for the customer base. We are Hoosiers, and we are here to stay together.
That's great. Some great figures there, to be sure. Rajan Gajaria, Corteva Agriscience. It's always great to have you on the show. Congratulations on the milestone. Look forward to seeing you soon.
Thank you so very much, as always, Gary, and take care.
Okay. Well, looking to slow down to stop and smell not the roses, but lavender. Our Mary Rachel Redmond has just the place at a U-Pick flower business in central Indiana. More on this labor of love for a Hoosier family and how it's turning into a big business. Here's what's making news now around Indiana. Brought to you by Chapman Heating, Air Conditioning and Plumbing, the man for all seasons. ChapmanHeating.com. 2019 saw record high horticulture sales in the state of Indiana, and it would appear that upward trend will continue well into this year and beyond, even lending itself to a trendy new form of agritourism. The standard pumpkin patch, corn maze, and apple orchard now have a little competition. Around Indiana reporter Mary Rachel Redmond has details.
They make a real fun accent with the bouquet.
According to numbers from Indiana Grown, it appears Hoosiers are planting more flowers. But for those that don't exactly have a green thumb, U-Pick flower farms have become all the rage. thanks in large part to influencers who, for all intents and purposes, aren't planning, but picking for that perfect Instagram photo op.
This is a burgundy yarrow.
And although I may not be an influencer, I was curious to see what all the hype was about. So I stopped at one of the mini You Pick Flowers spots to crop up in Indiana, Dolly's Farm in Franklin.
We have 87 different varieties of cut flowers. So we have half an acre of sunflowers, 20 different varieties, and everything from white to cream to striped to black to cherry ones. Into June, they'll start blooming all the way through the season.
Operating since 2018, Dolly's features 10 sections of 120-foot long by 6-foot wide rows of endless blossoms ripe for the picking, but not so fast. As owner Trisha Wilson shows me, there's an art to creating a customized bouquet.
A bucket and snips.
Okay, perfect.
Alrighty, and I'm going to take a pair of snips so I can show you what we're doing. When you cut a fresh flower, you find one you like. Notice this one is totally different, even though it's the same plant. Do you see? They're both different. You just follow a stem down, and you're just going to snip it.
This bucket has water in it too, so you can kind of see.
We always put fresh water and flower food in that so that they get over the shock of being cut.
And while the smell of fresh flowers is about as good as it gets, at Dolly's, they take a bit of a different approach.
You can see the mint over here. So you climb in, and it gives you the greenery you like.
So good.
Most of the garden cut flowers don't have a scent to them. So we grow our mint. And that's going to completely change your bouquet in the way it looks and the way it smells.
What you're really known for is lavender.
But if you love lavender, rub it. Rub it. Rub it. You won't hurt the plant. Okay. Yeah. Okay, now smell your hands, sweetie.
Oh my God.
Oh yeah, that's
Oh my God.
I tell the kids all the time.
You pay good money for that smell. Is lavender the most popular with folks that come to visit?
We have thousands of people who come to pick their own lavender. You're going to set your flowers here, and we're going to put those together in an arrangement for you that you love.
I'm afraid I'm going to break them.
No, oh,
Okay.
you won't. No.
I'm learning.
I know.
Beautiful.
And another one.
I feel like I look like a pro. Instagram pick-worthy? I'd say so. But beyond the amazing backdrops and photo ops at Dolly's, just the simplicity of the farm itself is what makes it a popular destination for families.
Serenity is the word I hear a lot. We have families who come over and over and over again. There's no fee to get on the farm. So they can come here and spend some time for free and do fun things together.
Mary Rachel Redmond, Inside Indiana Business.
Coming up next, how one Indiana city is using its airport as a centerpiece to attract new business. Details on some aggressive plans in the works at Terre, Haute Regional Airport. Well, officials in west central Indiana are eyeing the creation of a new commercial corridor along State Road 46 and US 40 on Terre Haute's east side. It's adjacent to Terre Haute Regional Airport, and that has created some optimism about a number of opportunities. With more on what those opportunities might be, and with news of a strategic plan as well, pleased to welcome to the show Terre Haute Regional Airport Board of Directors President Rachel Leslie and Board Secretary Rick Berger. Welcome to the show.
Thank you. Thank you.
Rachel, I'll start with you. A lot going on in Terre Haute, in particular on the east side with the Hard Rock Casino that will be opening, bringing a lot of people into the region. There's been residential and commercial development, in particular on the east side of Terre Haute, where Terre Haute Regional Airport is. So I think the idea is to try to leverage that to create future economic development. Explain this strategic plan, what it's all about.
Thank you, Gary. We appreciate that. Yes, the airport board decided a year ago to bring together not just those associated with the airport, but also the commercial, residential people here on the east side of Terre Haute. Specifically, I want to mention Rose Hallman's perspective on this as well. So we brought everyone together and said, hey, how are we going to take advantage of potentially 1 million new visitors to our community every year, whether it be wayfinding, beautification, or how we really turn in this airport into a true aerotech park?
Yeah, Rick, talk about the potential here, because you look at the asset that the airport presents there. You've got an Air National Guard base that's there, the 181st Intelligence Wing, which is a very important asset there at the airport. What's the potential for future development if you can leverage all these things together?
Yeah, the potential we see here is just overwhelming. The things that we could bring in here, an aerospace or anything like that, anything to complement the Wabash Valley. Because when we're talking about this, we're just not talking Terre Haute. We're talking the Wabash Valley for opportunities and potential growth there.
Yeah. What about buy-in, Rachel? Because as Rick mentioned, this is a regional initiative, really, in many ways, all the way down to maybe Knox County, Putnam County, and so on, Vermilion County, my home county, if you will. How's the community buy-in, at least so far?
Sure. Well, I appreciate that question, because I would tell you that's probably the best part of this process, not just from a facilitation standpoint, but people calling. They want to have their voices heard. They have ideas and perspectives that they haven't had an opportunity to partake in the past. And Gary, I just have to say, I know everyone's talking regionalism and it's the hot thing and people are excited about it. But let me tell you, we truly have a region right now on fire, ready to take advantage of these types of opportunities. So shout out to those mayors, county commissioners, and others that have been part of this that are not in Vigo County, but understand the value.
Yeah, Rachel, I know a lot of that regionalism started with the Regional Cities Initiative. Now with that next iteration, if you will, the READY program, $500 million program from state government. Do you envision perhaps leveraging some dollars there and putting some projects together as part of this to go after some of that state money?
We do, Gary. I think that you're going to see that our READY application will be inclusive of a lot of different things, not just on 46, but in the region and these other counties and some of the things that they're doing to take advantage of all that is happening here in Vigo County. And equally, the things that Vigo County has taken advantage of in their particular areas. We are really a hot spot for tourism, and we're going to start telling that story in a whole new way.
Rick, I'll give you the final word. This is a process, obviously. What do you see as next steps?
Next steps, we just completed our last community meeting we got input from the community yesterday, so we're excited to take their input, because this is definitely a community plan that we're going to put in place. We got to start showing some action out here with the strategic plan, and I think in the next couple months you're going to see some great things happening on this side of the city.
Very good. Rachel Leslie and Rick Berger, Terre Haute Regional Airport Board of Directors. A lot going on in Terre Haute and Vigo County and around the airport as well. Thanks for joining us from the airport. We'll look forward to following the story.
Thanks,
Thank
Gary.
you.
All right. Coming up, how central Indiana may be evolving into the epicenter of the nuclear medicine industry. It's a segment that of healthcare expected to triple within the next few years. Well, industry experts are pointing to Indiana as an emerging hub for nuclear medicine. Radiopharmaceutical companies have recently committed to investing nearly $200 million in new facilities by the end of 2023 in Indiana. And Business of Health reporter Kylie Valletta has more. Kylie.
Thanks, Gary. The state's roster of players in nuclear medicine is growing stronger by the day, with companies locating here or expanding existing operations. And the momentum will likely continue to build. A recent industry report predicts the global market for nuclear medicine is expected to increase from $5 billion to $14 billion by 2025. Ohio-based Cardinal Health is one of the biggest players in the Indiana sector and recently announced it will invest millions more to make Indianapolis the company's nerve center for innovation. Joining me now to tell us more about the expansion is the president of Cardinal Health's Nuclear and Precision Health Solutions, Tiffany Olson. Tiffany, thanks for being on the show today.
Thank you.
All right, well, we'll talk about your expansion in just a minute, but first, let's talk about nuclear medicine. Can you explain what it is in layman's terms?
Yes, absolutely. But first, let me just say, thanks for having me on the show, because we've been in Indianapolis for many years, and our industry is now at this inflection point, and we've chosen Indianapolis to be the center for our expansion. So I'm really excited to talk about it. Now, nuclear medicine is used for both diagnostics and therapeutics, and it uses what's called a radiopharmaceutical. So this is a drug with a small amount of radioactivity. And then based on the drug's chemical structure, it gets carried to different places within the body. And it may also include a nuclear image. So imagine if your body was made of glass and the physician could just look inside and see what was going on. So that's really the beauty of nuclear imaging. So unlike X-rays, which will show the bone structure, imaging will show the function and blood flow. So also with radiopharmaceutical drugs that are very different than any others is that it decays, and it decays at the rate of its half-life until it's all gone. So some are gone in a couple of hours, and some take a couple of days.
Okay, lots of fascinating stuff to unpack there. Give us a brief look of what Cardinal Health has here in Indiana already, and then tell us about your expansion to create this new Center for Theranostics Advancement here in Indy.
Absolutely. So we received a multi-million-dollar investment to expand our capabilities with pharma innovators. And we developed the Center for Theranostics Advancement. This is where we help pharma innovators develop their product, scale it, manufacture it, commercialize it, and distribute it directly to patients. And we help them bring these new drugs to market in 3 new physical locations located on the northwest side of Indianapolis. So the first is in our Innovation Center. And this is where we start to follow the drug through its different clinical trial phases. And at the Innovation Center, we work on phases 0 through 2, and also with getting the drug into clinical trials. And then the next building that we have, which we call our pre-commercial building, and we can also do small-scale manufacturing, is when that product is in phase 3. And then our newest building is our large-scale manufacturing, very large building, over 60,000 square feet. And those are for products that are FDA approved. Now, also up on that same side of town, we have a very large manufacturing facility that we've had for several years, where we manufacture a product for Bayer Pharmaceuticals called Xofigo. We also have 2 nuclear pharmacies where we prepare, dispense, deliver patient-specific doses. So it has the patient name on it and exactly the right product for them. So overall, we have a little over 200,000 square feet with room to expand in the area.
So speaking of expanding, you touched on this a little bit earlier, that you feel like nuclear medicine, the industry, is just really at a tipping point. Kind of explain what you see from your vantage point right now in the industry.
Yeah, absolutely. Because as you had stated earlier, we are projected to significantly grow in the coming years. So historically, nuclear medicine has been primarily used as a diagnostic tool, really mostly in cardiology and in oncology. But recently, we've had this fundamental change happen in our industry, and we're offering theranostics. So let me take a moment and explain. So a theranostic, it's both a diagnostic, which is tell me what's wrong. It's a therapeutic, fix what's wrong. We individualize them down to the cellular level. And so patients get exactly what they need. And anticipation then of this growing new area is why we built the Center for Theranostic Advancement. So it's going to be innovations like these that truly are life-changing for patients in the future.
Okay, Tiffany, just about 20 seconds left, but can you tell us why you chose Indianapolis specifically for this new center?
Absolutely. First, centrally located. Because our products decay, we've got to get them into the patient quickly. So between our international airport, the FedEx hub, and all of the ground transportation, we are absolutely in the right place. All of the infrastructure with advanced manufacturing for our ability to hire folks. We worked with BioCrossroads, always been great at connecting us with academic and researchers. The IEDC provided us with many wonderful reasons to come. And last but not least, Hoosier hospitality.
That secret sauce you said earlier. Tiffany,
absolutely.
Thanks for being on the show today. Good luck with the new expansion, and keep us posted.
Thank you very much.
And Gary, back to you.
All right, Kylie, thank you. Well, this week an Italian company announced big plans to establish its new U.S. hub in Hamilton County. Stefanato Group says it will invest up to $145 million to build and equip a new manufacturing facility in Fishers and create more than 230 jobs by the end of 2025. The company provides drug containment, delivery, and diagnostic services for the biopharmaceutical sector. It says construction on the plant expected to begin later this year and to be operational in 2023. The company plans to hire for a variety of positions, production, engineering, maintenance, and other support jobs at a later date. Well, a man with an extensive background in telehealth and telemedicine will lead Marian University's new emphasis on educating future engineers. The university has named Dr. Ben Tran as dean of the E.S. Whitaker School of Engineering. The school will open to its first class of students in the fall of 2022 and will offer a variety of degrees in the field, including biomedical, chemical, civil, computer, electrical, and mechanical engineering. And for more on the new school and goals, pleased to be joined by Dr. Tran and also Marian President Dan Elsner. Gentlemen, welcome to the program.
Thank you.
Good to be with you.
Yeah, Dr. Tran, welcome to Indiana as well. But Dan, I'm going to start with you. You have launched and initiated so many new things at Marian. It's really transformed the school in so many ways. New medical school, teachers college, a number of other initiatives. Why this focus on engineering?
Well, first of all, our board has a few strategic priorities. This is the top one. It's all in our big STEM initiative. If you understand the ecosystem in Indiana, we're a manufacturing state, biomedical engineering state. We have a great medical school. We're here in central Indiana. We see the need for diversity in the engineering field, and we're foursquare in it. And we found an outstanding national leader to lead the effort, a tremendous lead gift by the Whitaker family. We're off and running, Gary, and it's going to stimulate a lot of growth here in central Indiana and beyond.
Yeah. Dr. Ben Tran, you come to Marian from the Catholic University of America in Washington, D.C. Give us a thumbnail of your background and really what interested you and what really made you approach and pursue this opportunity at Marian.
So I graduated with a mechanical engineering degree from the left coast, University of California, San Diego. And right when I graduated, I got involved in internships as a process engineer, a manufacturing engineer, test engineer, and then eventually an R&D engineer. And then, because of my interest in medical ventilators and cardiopulmonary biomechanics, I went and did my graduate studies at the University of Iowa. And eventually I made it all the way out to Washington, D.C. at the Catholic University. And we did a lot of research there in health information technologies. And so it was a very exciting research opportunity. But this new opportunity that's being started at Marian University really excites me. Being a founding dean of a new school of engineering starting from scratch and being an entrepreneurial effort really is something that it's going to be a challenge, but it's something I'm looking forward to.
Yeah, talk about, Dr. Tran, your goals, your vision, some of the programs you really want to put in place and execute there at Marian.
Sure. One of the goals that we have, the vision that we have is that we're going to start an engineering program that is founded upon the Franciscan Catholic conscience, and we're going to build programs that serve the nation and serve the world and societal needs. And that comes from everything from biomedical engineering in the health field, all the way to chemical engineering and developing new vaccines and medicines, to computer engineering and dealing with issues like cybersecurity and some of these other things that are going on as well. And so civil engineering, the world is looking at a lot of needs for infrastructure, and so we're going to try and address some of those issues.
Dan, you've made the point in the past that your graduates stay and work in Indiana, Indianapolis, and throughout the state of Indiana. As you look at this new engineering school and the graduates that will be coming out of there, these are going to feed the pipeline, right? That engineering and that technical pipeline that really needs people in it.
I have two visuals. One, the pipeline's going to get bigger. We're going to have more engineers, and we're going to eliminate some leaks. There's a lot of engineers trained in the state of Indiana. Many of them leave here. We're going to very intentionally, and we've had a lot of great response from partner companies and donors, Said, boy, I visited with an engineering firm just a couple weeks ago. Said, we'd hire 25-year graduates tomorrow. I said, well, it's not going to happen that fast. But if you're part of the pipeline, we'll put some in there. So we have a very clear strategy to recruit, develop engineers, starting with our work in K-12 schools, especially from diverse populations, get them here in Indiana and in Marion University, tie them to internships and companies, develop relationships, and you'll see investment from other parts of the country and the world come to Indiana. You'll see better paying jobs, and you'll see some great advancements in all areas of life. So we're very excited about it, Gary, and we're so blessed to be in a community that supports us the way they do. We've had record fundraising beyond even our imagination, and we have pretty big imagination here.
That's right.
And it's just been awesome. So we're ready to go and excited to get the word out.
Another major initiative at Marion University, a new College of Engineering, a School of Engineering at Marion, President Dan Elsner, and also the founding dean of the Whitaker School, Dr. Ben Tran. Thank you both for being here, and we look forward to following your exploits.
We'll keep you informed, Gary. Thank you.
All right.
Thank you very much.
Thanks, Gary.
Well, this week, Dreyer's Grand Ice Cream announced plans to grow its Indiana footprint. The company says it plans to invest more than $145 million to expand production facilities in Fort Wayne, also add up to 145 jobs by the end of 2024. The company says the expansion includes 2 new production lines for its drumstick products. Dreyer's currently employs about 400 at its Fort Wayne facility. It's part of England-based Froneri, which has purchased Nestle USA's ice cream business in 2019 for $4 billion. That's a lot of ice cream. Well, intentional generosity in intentional geography, a theme Pacers Sports and Entertainment continues to put into action. 1 year after racial unrest gripped Indianapolis and much of the country, more on the organization's efforts to reinvest in community. That's when we come back. Well, Pacers Sports and Entertainment is, of course, trying to drive on-court success for the Pacers and Fever. But the organization says it is also working very hard and allocating resources to drive community impact as well. Bill Benner has more in this week's Inside Indiana Sports. Bill.
Gary, thanks. Like high-profile sports organizations here and across the country, PSNE has spent the past year focused on what it calls intentional generosity and intentional geography, a wide-ranging array of initiatives aimed at making a substantive difference for our underserved communities. And joining us today to discuss what has occurred and what lies ahead is Rick Fuson, the president and COO of Pacers Sports and Entertainment. Rick, welcome. Great to see you, my friend.
Thank you, Bill. I appreciate it. I couldn't be more honored to be with you today.
Well, and again, a wide-ranging array of initiatives that the Pacers, you've always been involved in community with the Simon ownership, but it took on special emphasis in the wake of last year's unfortunate activities. Talk about some of the things that have been accomplished so far.
Well, you know, obviously we are in the sports business and we have a platform. There's no question about it. And we think it's important for us to be a part to make the community better. I think from my perspective, at 68 years old, I think this is another opportunity, maybe the second or third opportunity that I personally have had to really help make a difference. And as the leader on a day-to-day basis of the business side of this company, I think we all want to join in and see how we can help. You know, over the last year, I mean, it changed our lives, I think, again. Certainly through after the murder of George Floyd and the ensuing situations that we've had all around this country. You know, but we have to support our own individual communities to make sure that we don't forget. I think Malcolm Brogdon made a terrific statement earlier that we have to sustain the outrage about systemic racism, about injustice, et cetera. And so Pacers Sports Entertainment is committed to doing what we can in our city over the entire year's basis and from here on as well.
Thus far, about more than 200 organizations have been reached out to, about more than 100,000 lives. The majority of the dollars now focused on equity, inclusion, and social justice. And so, again, intentional generosity, intentional geography.
That's right, Bill. You know, the Simons have been the Simon family's been very generous over the years, as the Ursays have, and so many others. But we set a social justice agenda that we would be narrowing our focus. We've given to a lot of groups over the years, but we really set on 5 different areas: education gaps, mentorship gaps, food deserts, our relationship between the community and the police and others in government, and support for minority businesses. We think it's so important that we have to put really our money where our mouth is, and that's really where we're talking today about helping these organizations as we go forward. We can't do it alone, however, and we've got to have great partnerships, and we look forward to creating even more partnerships as we go forward.
Yeah, some of those partnerships include the Centers for Leadership Development, the Kennedy King, the CICF, Anthem, and others. And again, you are definitely reaching out and hooking up arm in arm with local entities.
Yeah, you know, the fever and our folks there started to deal with Anthem and the Mays Institute at IU's Lilly Family School of Philanthropy. And we're working with the players to become, it's called Athletes to Advocacy, to help those young women and others to help them make sure that they're helping the community as well. The Center for Leadership Development, great group in our town. They have been supported by the new NBA Foundation that each of the owners has pledged $1 million for each of 10 years, so $30 million apiece, $300 million, you know, throughout the time that we will be giving to different causes across the country. Kennedy King, what can we say about, you know, that day so many years ago when Robert Kennedy gave a speech here and really probably saved our community, you know, from devastation the day that Martin Luther King was killed. And we're going to continue to do that, because what was taught to Indianapolis that night, what we heard from Bobby Kennedy, was very important for all of us going forward. And it's a legacy that we can be proud of. CICF is doing great work in terms of their philanthropy, the racial equity pledge that many companies through this town have talked about. We want to keep it sustained, and we want to make sure that we can help be a leader in that. We don't have to be the leader. We want to be partners with people and walk down the street together.
Well, Rick Fuson, the president and CEO of Pacers Sports Entertainment, is sure having a great night. These are exciting initiatives, but they're also very necessary initiatives, and we applaud Pacers Sports Entertainment for taking the lead. Rick, thanks for being on the program. We'll see you soon.
Thank you, Bill. Appreciate it.
All right. And Gary, back to you.
All right, Bill, thank you. Well, it just so happens that Rick Fuson is also our guest this week on the Business and Beyond podcast, our 20th edition. Rick grew up in Indianapolis, attended Arlington High School, and went on to IU, where he graduated with a degree in political science. He talks about his passion for sports, growing up the son of a high-profile sports writer, Indianapolis News sports editor Wayne Fuson.
Oh, I loved Indianapolis. You know, my father, was a sports writer, and we got to go to a lot of sporting events. Arlington High School was a great place. I loved going to IPS schools. All my siblings went to Arlington High School and to city public schools, and it was a great place. And we had, it wasn't controversial. I mean, we had friends of all kinds. And we went to school, we played sports, and we came home, and we went to Steak and Shake, and we went to McDonald's, and we hung out, and you weren't fearful at that time. And Indianapolis, while they might have called it Indianapolis, it was a great place for us growing up.
Yeah. Well, you mentioned your dad, Wayne, a legendary sports writer, sports editor for the Indianapolis News for a long time. What was it like having a high-profile dad like that? You said you went to a lot of sporting events. What was it like to have him in the newspaper and out there a lot?
Well, let me tell you, my given name is Wayne, but I go by Rick. That ought to tell you something, because every time there was a bad story, no, I'm Rick Fuson. I'm not Wayne Fuson. So no, it was great. He was a guy who reported the news. He wasn't a columnist really. He had a story called Time Out, and he reported the news. Once in a while, he'd write about his favorite pizza or his favorite, time of year or Christmas or whatever the case may be. But I enjoyed it, and I think I learned a lot from my dad in terms about telling the facts, not embellishing the facts, and just telling the way things are. So we miss him terribly, and he's been gone a long time, 25 years. I'll never forget one of the things we found. He went to the Colts game and have his final notes from his career before the week he passed. But even at 68, it's amazing the kind of foundation that you've had in our town. And my dad was one of the guys who he called people movers and shakers. And there's still people around here today who hate to be called movers and shakers, but that's exactly what they are.
Much more with Pacer Sports and Entertainment President Rick Fuson beginning Monday on the Business and Beyond podcast. To check it out, just go to InsideIndianaBusiness.com and click on the subscribe tab. Coming up next, the annual go-to event for professional women from Indiana and around the Midwest. Details on this year's Indiana Conference for Women and its mission to promote a stronger workforce. Well, one of the premier events for Hoosier women in the workforce returns this year and includes a hybrid format. The Indiana Conference for Women will take place in early November, both in person, mostly in person, and also online. Hollywood actresses and iconic fashion designer are among headliners for this year's conference. And for more on why this event continues to be one of the largest and most important events of its kind, really in the country, pleased to be joined by Indiana Conference for Women founder Billy Dragoo Garcia and Executive Director Chelsea Anderson. And ladies, welcome to the program as always.
Thank you, Gary.
Hey, Bill, I want to start with you. This is the 10th anniversary celebration, if you will, for the Indiana Conference for Women. And I can remember being at that first conference. And from that first conference on, it has been a hit and has grown every year. Talk about, as you think back on it, the idea for the conference, what it's all about, and why, in your view, it has continued to achieve such success.
Well, in the beginning, Deborah Collins-Stevens and I wanted to build a strategic focused leadership and economic division for women in our state and actually our city and our state. But it's mushroomed into much more than that now. We attract multiple across the lines of industries of women, CEOs, C-suite. Now it's into the students across our state. And then we attract a lot of people from out of state. So this conference has become an ecosystem of strategic thinking and leadership. And now we've mushroomed into the scholarships that we're anxious to talk to you about. And I'll let Chelsea talk to you a little bit about that later, but amazing 501c3 board that we developed, and we have great people on that board. Amazing case studies for this conference. It's, 40% millennials, C-suite, across multiple levels of the industries in our city. Yep. And also 20% women business owners. So there's something for everyone. But it's, like you said, it's grown exponentially. I would say 20 to 30% every year.
Yep, very good. Chelsea, let's talk about this year because you have a big lineup. November 3 is the date. Some really high-profile keynotes and a lot of activity. Give us a thumbnail description of this year's event.
I'm so sorry, you cut out there for a moment. I didn't quite hear the question.
Yeah, the thumbnail description, you've got some high-profile keynote speakers, a lot of activity planned. Give us a kind of a description of what folks can expect November 3.
I'd love to. Yes, I'm really excited about our keynotes this year. We'll start things off with Taraji P. Henson, whom folks might know from her wonderful roles in Hidden Figures, Empire. She's also launched a new campaign to talk about mental health in young people, which we know is so important all the time, and especially in this last year and a half or so. Following that, we will see Jamila Jamil. Folks might know her from The Good Place. She played Tahani. She also has a wonderful podcast, and she's a host in a number of different areas, and we just love having Jamila here. She'll have a great conversation with folks. And closing out our keynotes, we have Betsy Johnson, who, of course, is an iconic fashion designer from the 80s and 90s, who just launched, I believe she has some purses and new accessories she just launched for us. So we're really looking forward to having these great speakers with us this year.
Yeah, major event November 3. I know you've got some summer events planned leading up to that as well. Billy, we're running out of time, but so many stories coming out of this conference, right, over the years, the impact that the conference has had on individual women.
Do you want me to talk about that?
Yeah, Billy, yep.
Well, we've had some attorneys now doing business with folks in New York, like with Ariana Huffington and some, I think it was Martha Stewart. We've had some folks, when she was in town, remember she visited Long's Bakery and went to the industries here that fit into the industry. And so there's some other folks working. One of the students at Heron, Amber Ray, one of the authors that spoke at our breakout session, she's now a mentee of Amber Ray, a book called Choose Wonder Over Worry. So these girls in high school, it's changing their lives too. So there's something for everyone. The studies that are coming out of this and the case studies that we're going to be presenting down the road will also build a legacy for this conference.
Right.
And the folks in our state that they'll be able to reflect back on and see what this conference has done for our state.
Yep, and it's had a big impact, to be sure. November 3, the Indiana Conference for Women. Billy Dragoo Garcia, the co-founder of the event. Also, Chelsea Anderson, the executive director of the conference. Thanks for joining us. I know we'll talk about this between now and then as well. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you.
All right. And I'll be right back after this. Stay with us. Coming up next week, The One. It's golf glove technology developed right here in Indiana, also getting some national attention. Plus, the countdown is on to the College Football National Championship in Indianapolis. Those stories and more next week. Thanks for joining us this week. I'm Gary Dick. Go out and make it a successful week.
Inside Indiana Business with Gary Dick is a production of Grow Indiana Media Ventures, with support from WFYI Productions.